Oh, yeah, sorry. All right, it is 6:45. Let's call the meeting to order.
Actually, 5:45.
It's 5:45. It is 5:45. Thank you, Amy. Let's call the meeting to order. I'm going to get every number wrong all night today, so we're good. All right, start with roll call.
Amy Riddle Swanson,
Here.
Mark Hillman,
Here.
Angie Skillings, Carl Palmer, Abe Smith,
Here.
Dominique Stewart,
Here.
Rachel Henderson,
Here.
Dale Zalke,
Here.
Amber Kirsty.
Here. And we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our mission statement: the school district of the Menominee area, by embracing the unique needs and using the strengths of our diverse community, is dedicated to preparing all students to become lifelong learners, caring individuals, and responsible citizens. Any revisions to the agenda order? Seeing none, we'll move on to community communications. So community communications is an opportunity to air concerns and express opinions on issues. While anyone has a right to share their beliefs, opinions, and viewpoints, this should not be a forum for attacking or demeaning staff, board members, or members of the administration. The comments made by community members do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of the board or the policies of the school district. We have two communications tonight. First up is Joyce Mueller.
Joyce Euler, nominee. Book banning is bad, right? Today I am sharing with you a book that a lot of people would like to see banned. Irreversible Damage by Abigail Shrier. A UC Berkeley English professor, Grace Laverly, tweeted that her followers should, quote, steal Abigail Shrier's book and burn it on a pyre, unquote. The ACLU's Chase Strangio tweeted, quote, stopping the circulation of this book and others like it is 100% a hill I will die on, unquote. These books were donated to me by a concerned citizen to share with you. They are yours to read, return to me, burn on a pyre, throw out, pass along, whatever. The book focuses on the sudden increase in girls and female teens coming out as trans, often strangely at the same time as a bunch of other girls in their friend group. This has the appearance more of a social contagion than true individual discovery. I'm not saying that the gender struggle for some students is not real and deeply traumatizing, but there's a lot more going on here. And this is largely playing out in public schools all over the country. Your own board policy, number 411.2, Gender Support Plan for Students, should really be reviewed and updated. In your plan, a student can decide they are possibly trans and be allowed to practice being the other gender all day at school. If the student thinks the parents would not approve, in your plan, the parents can be completely left out of the entire process. The bus driver would know. All the kids and teachers at school would know that little Betty is called Billy all day. The only people in town possibly who would not know by your gender policy are the parents. The parents are also the ones who know about other emotional issues going on in the child's home life that might be affecting the trans decision. These are some of the same parents that just a month ago, Mr. Seguin said had the responsibility to know what was in every library book their child checked out. It is the parents' job to be super involved in that area But now you're going to turn around and keep secrets like a name and gender change from parents. If you think a parent is that dangerous, you are mandatory reporters. Use that system.
That's time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have one more speaker, Josie Pillman.
I'm Josie Pellman, I'm from NAP. And, Dr. Zabowski, members of the board. WPR reported this week that the legislature was withholding funds to the universities until they agreed to stop giving diversity, equity, and inclusion training, or DEI training to their staff and students. That was part of the budget that sadly Governor Tony Evers struck down. Diversity tries to make all people equal. In reality, it always discriminates against some. Equity seeks to make the end result equal. Thus, a highly motivated person is held back to wait for the slower, less motivated person. Those who are underachievers discourage the high achievers from attaining their best. Thus, everybody gets a trophy. We have no losers, everybody wins. We do not work through the character-building process of being a humble winner and a gracious loser. Life, in reality, does have winners and losers. Inclusion. All voices will be heard. Everybody belongs and is integrated into the group. This eliminates corrective comments. It could even intimidate the teacher. Every year, much money has been allotted to the UW system to be spent on DEI training. When the SDMA has an opening for a teacher, the most likely pool to draw from would be the UW system. These teachers are all indoctrinated with the dangerous DEI philosophy. It needs to stop. How does it apply to the gender policy plan? Applying the principles of DEI training, it would mean calling wrong right and right wrong. The wrong of sexual perversions get a special pass, inclusion. We don't accept cheaters, thieves, liars, or rule breakers, but we actually celebrate gay trans people. We include them, but don't correct them. We let their voices be heard without contradiction. Worse than that, our professionals choose books and curriculum to transform our littlest children. There's no DNA gene for homosexuality, as certain books suggest. Every person comes equipped with the necessary parts that are in line with their biology. A small child knows this. Putting books in Knapp Elementary that suggest otherwise is wrong. It can only lead to doubt or gender confusion, or worse. What a horrible thing to do to these precious little ones. Let me close with a barnyard story. When I go to gather eggs in the chicken coop, I wear a glove on one hand. Why? Because I know that the really good broody mama hens will peck at me when I try to steal away their young. I don't want to get pecked. The nasty hen is being a good mama by instinctively protecting her offspring. I want you school board to peck that, to scrutinize the SDMA library books and curriculum. Scrutinize the gender policy plan. See if you find any wrong teaching on human sexuality or DEI. It is your responsibility to make corrections when things are falling off the rails in our public schools. Protect our little children. Thank you.
That, at least myself as board president, I do not endorse that message. Our teachers, our librarians, and our other staff are excellent, and they're dedicated to the education and development of our kids. They have the support of the district administration. Our mission statement refers to all students, and all is capitalized. We're a public school that exists for everyone in the community, and our mission, vision, and strategic plan support and care for all of our students is paramount.
I would just like to thank Rachel for saying that. I agree with Rachel 100%. I also am getting tired of hearing our teachers being put down and our students being called perverse, because that is not the case. And I'm really saddened to hear these kinds of things month and week after week. Thank you.
Next up, we have the monthly employment report.
This is a standing agenda item for the board to review. You can see there's not been a lot of activity over the summer. You can expect a lot more activity with hourly positions being filled as we move closer to the school year.
On to the consent agenda. We'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So,
I'll second.
All right, moved by Abe, second by Amber. So we have the minutes from the regular board meeting of June 12th and special board meeting of June 26th. Financial reports, approving general fund checks in the amount of $3,350,300 $300.23, and cash receipts in the amount of $351,136.64 for June 2023. No donations exceeding $1,000, and then retiring policies and exhibits 542.32, 542.33 regarding executive assistants and support staff coordinators.
Rachel, can I just follow up on the retired policies and exhibits? Those are no longer needed. Those positions were phased out of the school district. It really had to do with the change in the Fair Labor Law and how our district is now staffed. So those policies are no longer needed.
Any questions or discussion on the consent agenda?
Did you already do a motion?
Yeah, A moved and Amber seconded. Right away. Okay, seeing none, let's vote.
There's a question of clarification on the policies. The policy doesn't apply anymore to any employees.
Correct.
Is that something that we should or have the power to remove in the future to just avoid a meaningless report? Or what's the status of that? And where is it?
Typically in the school district, if a policy is retired, we as the board take action.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it provides public notice.
Mark, are you able to access voting on your computer remotely?
Yeah, it's not coming up, so I could do a voice vote.
Okay.
That would be yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, vote, motion passes 8-7-0. And next we have nothing on the personnel consent agenda. Right? Right. So we'll move on to the action agenda. First up, we have approval of the SDMA Education for Employment Plan. Entertain a motion to approve.
I so move.
Second.
Motion by Amy, second by Dominique. Any discussion or questions?
Rachel, I'd just like to point out that at the last meeting, Mr. Seguin, Ryan Sterry, and Jill Zanowski provided this report for the board. It's the annual update. Unless there's any other questions, it should be ready for your approval tonight.
Did you raise your hand? No. You look like you put a hand up.
Oh,
No, all right,
sorry.
it's okay. No, if there's no discussion or questions, let's vote.
I guess if I had to say anything, nice report.
Yes, what, very nice report. Mark, do you want to do a voice vote?
Sure, yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes 7-0. And next on the action agenda, we have approval of the 2023 annual meeting agenda for publication. Entertain a motion?
So
Second.
Right, moved by Dale, second by Dominique. Any questions or discussion? Or Joe, do you want to say anything?
Sure, again, the board reviewed this at the last meeting. You'll notice the annual meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 21st at 6:00 p.m. at Menominee High School in the tiered lecture hall.
Any questions or discussion on the agenda? This is going really fast.
That's pretty typical for the second meeting in July.
All right, no more questions, let's vote. Oh, Mark, do you want to do a voice vote for the annual meeting agenda? passes unanimous. And on to our discussion agenda. First up, we have annual review of curriculum standards.
So each year at this time, by state statute, this needs to come before the board. Brian, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So included in your background and public content is a link that takes us to our district's curriculum standard page that identifies each of the content area standards that are currently in use within the school district. As we look ahead to the 23-24 school year, we are not proposing any changes to the current standards that were used in the 22-23 school year. Also included in the background for your information is the timeline that the Department of Public Instruction has for conducting annual reviews of curriculum standards. You can see it's on a rolling basis. I think if you look at it, it's about every 6 years they circle back around. So unless there are any questions, this is just informational to provide notice as to the standards that are in use.
Any questions or discussion?
I'll ask one fairly simple question. So I think we discussed last time how there may be changes, or there are changes in the state budget package that might impact curriculum. Are you anticipating changes to happen next year that might be more significant, or what's your aim? So thank you for that question, Dave. In taking a look at what's included in the budget, it is in relation to student performance on, or in relation to the standards, as opposed to changes to the standards themselves. So if that works its way through the process, will it result in changes in practice? Yes. But will it change the standards that are currently in use? No. Thank you.
Thanks for that. So we could move on to discussion of strategic planning goals and major activities for 2023-24.
At the last meeting, the board reviewed the progress that was made during the 2022-2023 school year, and now we are in the mode of setting goals for this coming school year. Tomorrow we have our leadership team retreat with all the district directors and principals. Certainly we'll cover a lot of items, and one of the items we'll be looking at is the strategic plan. And I know board members had made some comments in previous meetings about having the opportunity to perhaps share some ideas or information. And I guess as we move towards that meeting tomorrow with the administrative team, I wanted to open it up for any discussion, questions, comments, suggestions that board members might have. Otherwise, working with the team, we plan to try to identify some goals to bring back to the board. And our hope is that before the school year starts, we will have a work plan for the board to consider. As we talked about previously, we are getting to the end of our strategic plan. We also know that despite the state budget being better than what was originally feared, we still are not looking at enough revenue to sustain our current programming. It's very likely that there'll be a large workload in terms of planning a potential referendum and working with our community on that, and also developing a process for the development of a refresh of our current strategic plan. Both those items are huge projects on themselves. So with that being said, do board members have any comments tonight prior to the leadership team retreat, or would you rather discuss it once you see what we have for you in the upcoming meetings?
So my personal view looking at this, I think the strategic plan for the last 5 years has worked very well. And I think actually that I don't think it needs major reworking personally. I think the pillars are sound. And even, with some updating, the strategies are pretty sound as well. It's really down to the level of actions and deliverables in the work plan, where I see it as an update of the work plan to be more future looking as this strategic plan gets wrapped up. So I kind of feel like we look at the poster that summarizes it, the top, third of that poster is still really good. And it's really a question of how we want to look forward with these strategies to new ideas and new opportunities in each of the pillars.
I think that's well said, Abe, and what I would encourage the board to do is really focus on the deliverables. And if you tell us what you'd like delivered, I am pretty sure that our team, working with our staff, can do a really good job in terms of developing the strategies to achieve those deliverables. You know, another question the board may want to ponder over the next few weeks is, in terms of identifying deliverables, what kind of process would you like to use for that? You know, certainly the community elected the board to represent the community. Oftentimes in a situation like this, we have some sort of collaborative effort, you know, whether it be a survey or whether it be listening sessions or something to provide that opportunity. It can get pretty comprehensive pretty quickly, depending on the type of process that we use, but certainly I'm sure we want to have voices involved with this process.
Thinking about the kind of steps of the process ahead of us, which include, you know, the potential for working on building support for a referendum, and then looking at the next iteration of the strategic plan. I wonder, the thing I think about the most with respect to that is Pillar 4. And I think in the past couple of years, the parent and community partnerships have been focused a lot on those sort of like partnerships with community groups, which have been really strong. And I wonder if it makes sense in the coming year to focus on kind of a communications piece of that, if that makes sense, and to think about action steps and kind of the major activities for the coming year around kind of building those opportunities for engagement, for kind of both communicating out and getting in for two-way communication. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think we would want more of a description, but
Sure.
I think I get the overall idea behind what you're saying, Rachel.
Yeah, I guess I don't have at this point a description, a specific description, just sort of thinking about if you wanted ideas to take into the retreat tomorrow. Yeah, that's what I have. Go ahead.
I'd just like to say that I'm really pleased with how this plan worked out. I mean, we got a lot done even with our COVID years, and so I appreciate it. And I think I really like the idea, and I know it's a lot of work to try to build new pillars or have pillars or bring community in, but I think that is really helpful just because I think then the school district or the community members feel like they have a say-so and a voice in what, you know, our schools are doing for our students. So I think that is kind of a cool thing to see happen. But I understand that it takes a lot of work, it's a lot of meetings, a lot of different, you know, balls and targets moving.
And I agree with you, Amy, and I think that also kind of ties into what Rachel is saying, is that, you know, through this process, essentially we would be achieving a deliverable, at least on the initial part of the process. And I think that's something absolutely we would want to do. And I think most strategic plans, most work plans are developed with that kind of input.
I know this is very much on your mind, but as we think through what, you know, actions, deliverables need to be in the future, it's worth discussing how, you know, as I mentioned last time, how, you know, the financial situation is not you know, a one-year financial cliff. It's actually a long drawdown of a combination of state funding and population changes and so on. So thinking through what does it mean to have the 5-year plan in an environment where we might see, you know, it's not crazy to think we might see, you know, a constant financial pressure on us, including one this coming year. So what does that look like over 5 years, and how can we make sure that we thrive in an environment?
I think that's a good point, and I know that that's one of the discussions that was had recently at this level, was being careful not to get out ahead of our skis. You know, I think there's a lot of wonderful things that we would like to do, but before we know what the revenue situation is pretty difficult to anticipate what might even be possible.
And if I could just jump off of that too, beyond the financial pressure, I think, you know, was a beautiful strategic plan. We did great on deliverables. I know how much work goes into something like this. But in terms of resiliency, with COVID coming, nobody had any idea to expect that. And we don't know what's coming in the next batch of years. So to really make sure that the plan has room to pivot to, and things that are thought about ahead of time that could be moved around in terms of triaging and prioritizing. I'm sure that's on the list.
Well, it is, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things I'm most proud of with how we've operated this plan, is that we've had an annual process of setting a work plan, working towards those deliverables. And, you know, kind of no matter what happens, we want our deliverables to be solid. And, you know, even with the funding pressures or whatever else might be coming, I think we all have a pretty good idea of what we want to see out of our school district. But the key to having that flexibility is then to bring it back every year and not just let it be a 5-year plan that sits on the shelf, but actually, you know, provide status updates and provide an annual opportunity for the board to set that work plan. And if we have to move the compass a little bit from year to year, that's something that we can do. So, yeah, I would highly encourage us to continue with that type of process.
Thinking about that and sort of with an eye on the next strategic plan, it didn't occur to me to ask this before the meeting, so I apologize, but could we get access to the previous strategic plan? Because I think it'd be really interesting for me, personally at least, to like see how it changed from the last iteration.
2014-ish?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the previous strategic plan was called the Great Conversation, and I can look at board docs and let you know which meetings you maybe want to focus on, or maybe even share the document. But what I can say is that, you know, one of the biggest outcomes of that strategic plan was the facility referendum that was passed and the renovations. There was more to the plan than that, but that was probably the most significant piece to it. But yeah, I can do that and get that to the board here in the next week.
Thank you. I think it'd be enlightening to think about how the plan has changed over time and what comes next.
You can share your doctoral dissertation, because I know you did it on the Great Conversation.
Oh, yeah! I mean, I would welcome that if you are comfortable.
I think you can find better things to read.
I got it. Mark, I want to make sure you have a chance to jump in if you have anything to say.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other discussion regarding the strategic plan, goals and major activities? So in terms of timeline or process, will it be our next meeting that you'll come back with the results of what kind of comes out of the retreat?
Yeah, my plan would be at our next meeting in July, kind of have a summary document, kind of a rough draft of what we're thinking. And then from there, the board could provide additional input, and whether or not it needs to, you know, be changed or updated. And then potentially the first board meeting in August is when the board could potentially approve the work plan for the 2023-2024 school year.
And it will hopefully be easier to provide specific thoughts or direction once we have kind of an outline.
Both on that timeline question and also looking at the next agenda item. I see on August 21st, there's the annual meeting. Isn't there normally a board meeting tied to that, or do we decide to do that?
In some years, the annual meeting is the fourth Monday in August, so we have a committee meeting prior to the annual meeting. I think what we should do is get to that July meeting and see what the workload is looking like. Right now, our staffing situation is looking, you know, better than probably most school districts. And depending on what we have coming forward with action, we may be able to do that and have a short meeting before the annual meeting on the 21st. If we think it's going to be a longer agenda, then I think we'd be wise to schedule the meeting on the normal fourth Monday on the 28th.
does that move us on to the next discussion item? Items related to next meeting dates, board committees, and reports. We have a special school board meeting July 24th, and as has been discussed, our annual meeting on August 21st. And for board members, there's a link to upcoming events and legal webinars to check out. All right, do folks want a break before we move into closed session?
I think we need to give a couple minutes for people.
Oh, that's true. So we'll take a 3-minute break, 3 to 5 minute break before we make a motion